Somebody said it's go time, so I guess that means me, and I guess I better listen. Welcome into the College Football Show. We do this Monday through Friday. How about that? Not just once a week, not Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday through Friday. Caveat this week, we're typically at 4 p.m. Eastern Time each and every day with you. However, March Madness, NCAA games tip off around 12:30, something in that range. From what I understand, I've not watched one of these things in about 10 years. Used to cover it, but have not been watching the hoops for quite some time. But usually tip off about 12:15, 12:30. So Thursday, opening day. Friday, we go live at 11 a.m. Eastern Time with you. So we are looking forward to that again, 11 a.m. on Thursday and Friday. And as a special bonus on Thursday, we will kind of encapsulate the Ohio State show within our pregame for the NCAA men's basketball tournament. And then on Friday, we will do the same with the ladies talking Ole Miss football with me. So Ohio State on Thursday, Ole Miss on Friday at different times this week. So when the bosses tell me, Mark, change the time, I got to change the time. So our typical Ohio State Wednesday show is now Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Just this week, right here. You don't even have to go to the Ohio State channel for the Buckeye show on Thursday. Same thing on Friday. Don't even need to leave the main channel to see myself, Leanne Herring, and Ruby Dreher talk Ole Miss football. That's coming up Friday. Whenever they decide to show up, I'm going to be here at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Thanks so much for joining us. Leave those comments and questions there in the chat. We've got two missions today, two little projects, courtesy College Football News and also ESPN. Unless we check the wire and see that there's actual college football news today. But besides that, we're going to have fun with the tournament. So on Monday, we looked at the brackets and we talked, okay, we're going to take these basketball matchups and make them football games. Today, we're actually going to take an exercise that both ESPN went through. So we're going to steal from the worldwide leader. Hey, they owe me 19 years. I can steal something from them. Is that we're going to look at that bracket that they put together. That's a lot of fun. Top 64 teams in the country. Would you not want to see the 64th best team in college football playing in a playoff? Some of you would. I hear this from time to time. I do hear this from time to time. Somebody will call up and say, 32, 64. There's never enough football. I think that's a bit of a stretch, but we will look at the ESPN brackets and kind of talk about what they're letting us know, how they size it up. I believe they have not played all the way through the bracket. We will see. College Football News has done something that I do every off season. So I'm in the process. Give me about a week. I am ranking all the programs in college football 1 to 136. 1 to 136. We do this each and every off season. And don't get confused by this. This is not an all-time ranking. This is also not a team ranking for 2025. This is a current program ranking for every program in college football. We go from 136 all the way up to number 1. And I should be done with that sometime next week. Maybe we will unveil that. What we'll do is I will unveil my 1 through 136 rankings. Then we'll do a live stream and we'll talk about it. That's what's kind of worked in the past. And I got to separate that series from the all-time rankings that I do, not to confuse anyone. So then we'll come back in about a month and we'll do all-time program rankings, which piss a whole lot of people off. And they come after me. Hey, I just size up the numbers and spit it out. And then in between, we will do our coaches' rankings. So this is rankings season here at the Voice of College Football. And again, comments or questions are welcome there. We appreciate the super chat contributions as well. And so let's get to it with a reminder that we had two great interviews on our On the Move show today with Leanne Herring. Where is it? Where is it, Mark? I don't see it. That's because you need to find the recruiting channel that we've launched here at the Voice of College Football. So you're not going to find it here. That's over on the recruiting channel. And that's probably difficult to find. I got to think that with the number of subscribers we have, so we will do our best to get that link in the chat, because I know that you can look up Voice of College Football Miami, Michigan, Ohio State, etc., and they'll pop up. With some of our newer channels, that's a bit difficult to find some of those. So it's a slow grind in terms of ramping up the YouTube success for some of these newer channels. So give us a boost if you love recruiting, especially let some people know, because we're not just spitting out stuff over there. Leanne has done a remarkable job of setting us up with first-rate guests. We have about 5 shows and videos over there on the recruiting channel with guests. Today it was Derek Baker, quarterback 2027 class out of Milton, Georgia. And also the number 1 rated cornerback in the transfer portal right now, North Alabama's Assad Williams, who's looking at Ole Miss this weekend. He's coming up north at some point to look at Michigan State and Purdue. He's also got Wake Forest on his radar. He just came from Arkansas, and we got him today thanks to Leanne. And so check out that interview. You get some really good insight into what these guys are looking for, whether it's a transfer player that's already succeeded in college and he's looking for another stop, another chance. And for this kid, we're talking about a North Alabama player looking to play in the big time. And he has exceptional talent, and he's a definite NFL hopeful with legitimate hope of playing on Sunday, someday soon. And again, on the high school level as well on our Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time show. And again, Thursday and Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time with the Ohio State show here on Thursday, with the Ole Miss show on Friday. All right. What do you say we tear up some brackets? I am going to have to get back to this. Just reminded me, as soon as I said brackets, I got a note late last night from somebody who would like me to play a bracket. And this is one of our sponsors that wants to have me play a bracket for whatever reason, which that used to be just as fun for me as just about everybody else. I used to play the brackets. And then at one point, somebody came up with the idea, you've got a bracket of integrity, whatever in the hell that meant. Basically, it meant that was the one that you weren't rooting for. That was the actual, those were the predictions. And then you had your, like, I hope this happens, but this is the bracket of integrity. I've won a few bucks in my day, wagering on some NCAA tournament. I don't know if I'm going to watch any of it. We'll see if it hits me. We got Christopher here. Toki G. First one in the building, everyone. Toki G gets that. You know what? We've decided. Our first call-in show, late night call-in show for the season. So if you've missed it, we've announced over the last week or so that we will do a late night call-in show every week, 1 per week, unless I'm stumbling in late night and I feel like doing another one at some point. But basically, no, one per week, but it's not going to be on a specific night because we would like to be able to spread the wealth and have as many people as possible join in. So we're going to do it 1 per week, and we're going to move it around. And instead of just randomly moving it around or doing it in some kind of boring way, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. No, we are going to let you decide when we are to do our late night call-in show for that particular week. So I've just made an executive decision just like that. And for our first late night call-in show, Toki G, it's your call. So this is going to be, when is the Final Four? We got to clear all that out of the way. It seems rather obvious that people are preoccupied. So we're going to kick it in after March Madness. So maybe the week of the Final Four, because there's only, as I understand it, 4 teams that play in the Final Four, that maybe we'll kick it in that week. Whatever week we're going to do it, Tukey G, it's up to you. You let us know that you have made the executive decision for our first week of late night call-in shows, what night that is going to be and at what time. Anytime. I'll start it at 3 a.m. if you want me to. Please don't do that to me. Yeah. Especially since I made a resolution over the weekend and you thought this was going to be about college football. When I get done rambling, it'll be about college football. So I made a resolution over the weekend, and this has worked out extremely well for me for 2 days, and it will continue to. So I decided, based on some fine instruction that I received over the weekend, I was laser focused over the weekend. I don't want to spend every weekend like that. That's for sure. But we're talking about 12 to 14 hours of just like business and life prep instruction. All right, that I need to have a tighter morning regiment. Because, hey, I got nothing going on anymore. I don't have kids to run around after. I don't have anything else kicking me out of bed or anything. So I get up at 9 one day, 7 the next day, 8:30, whenever. Unless I have an appointment, I just get up when I get up. No more of that. Because my excuse is I worked basically a third shift at ESPN. So that's been my excuse now going on. Let's see, it's almost been 5 years, 4.5 years ago. So that excuse has run out that, my body clock is screwed up. All right, so 7 a.m., set the alarm, 7 a.m., and none of this like grabbing my phone, looking at social media, looking at texts, rolling around, none of that. Man, I am up, out of bed in 10 seconds. And then it's got some breathing exercises, got some exercise, got some meditation and prayer, and then boom, I am ready to go. I'm in the shower and up and at 'em. Make myself a smoothie and I am fired up. That's work for 2 days. And actually today I woke up at 6:30 in the morning, and that was after I went to bed at 2. And I just opened my eyes at 6:30 and thought, this alarm's going to go off here in just a minute. And I finally grabbed the phone and went, it's 6:30 and I am wide awake and I'm ready to go. So let's do it. So Tukey G, have you responded? You've got like 2 weeks to decide this. You've got like 2 weeks to decide this. So you just let me know. The pressure is unbearable. Oh man, I don't want to do that to you, Tukey G. I thought that this was some kind of a privilege maybe I was bestowing on you. If you want to hand this to Jackson, I'm sure he'll let me know when we are going to go live. And we will toss it around to various folks who want to let us know. And we'll maybe take a vote one week. We'll do all sorts of strange things. We'll select a time out of a hat. Although that would take some work to actually put numbers in a hat. That's a little bit beyond me. As I was telling somebody, I believe I told them right before we came on. I believe I did. Maybe I did not. Yeah, I'm going to tell them right now. You see, I don't prepare for these shows, which is pretty obvious. But hey, people tell me all the time, it's up here, right? It's between the ears. All right. So Tukey G, if you want to hand off I'm thinking this is an honor and a privilege but maybe not. Christopher, good to see you. Jackson, of course. Todd's here. Jim R is here. Leanne is here, and she's already done way too much work today. And she's probably, I don't know, masterminded some amazing lacrosse strategy at this point that is going to completely just mesmerize opponents. I bleed orange. Mark, are you in your 30s? Late 30s. Yes. I'm barely hanging on. I am barely hanging on into those 30s. It was funny on Michigan Podcast. Salute to our buddy Steve Dace, their Michigan Podcast, who so graciously has me on every week, just about every week. I'm looking at the comments a few weeks ago. This was about a month ago. I'm looking at the comments, and somebody, I always find this amusing, somebody accuses me of using Just for Men. It took me like 10 seconds to even realize what Just for Men was. And then I'm like, oh, yeah. That stuff. Sure. Yeah. Okay. I bleed orange. You're very kind. I will say this. I will say this, that, yeah, when I get accused of that, basically, if it's like jet black, that just means it's wet, and I put too much solution or too much, what's the word? Too much product in it. That's all that means. And when it's lighter, I put less in it. That's pretty much your formula. Matthew says 2:30 to 6:30. You don't get enough sleep, Mark. Well, that's probably true, but I sleep fine. I don't have trouble sleeping. If I don't sleep for a long time, it's because I just feel good, don't need to sleep that long, but I sleep, and I sleep like a baby. I don't have a care in the world. But thank you for your concern. Jim has a daughter of 38. The devil wears product. Troy, I thought I was on your side, or you were on my side. I have no idea what that even means. Okay. Yes. Time does move quickly. And I bleed orange is 24. And I'm sure you look amazing for your age. All right. Didn't know where we got into this, but I guess that's my issue. Mark would make French toast. French toast is one of my favorite breakfast foods. It probably is my favorite. Although I did promise, who was that? Oh, one of my best friends. I was wondering because when my daughter came down, I took her to a Waffle House because there are few Waffle Houses up north. She came down last summer and she's going to come down soon. And so I took her to a Waffle House. Yeah. And then I took my son to the same Waffle House when he came down about a month ago. And it's funny because I had never been to a Waffle House in my life. I had never heard of them. And then when I moved to Mississippi, there was a Waffle House and everybody raved about it. And rightfully so. I went to the Waffle House and then we pretty much lived there. And so my kids I'd take them to the Waffle House when they were like 3 or 4 years old. And then I moved away and I never was around a Waffle House except for if I traveled after that. And then now I'm close to a Waffle House. Although I've not gone there except for those 2 times. I did go to one in Georgia about 6 months ago. But yeah, waffles. So French toast would be my favorite, except for I'm a simple man. I don't need a fancy breakfast, although there are some really good fancy breakfasts, but the Waffle House is amazing. it tastes the same every time. And I'm telling my buddy this the other day. He's in Ohio, and he said, all right, when I come down, I got to go to the Waffle House. I said, yeah, you do. You need to go to a Waffle House, and I will be happy. I was in Georgia, and I ran across the happiest, most pleasant, and most the most courteous and the best serving waitress I've ever come across in my life. Even to the degree when I was walking out the door, she brought me ice water. I didn't ask for it. I'm walking out the door. She rushes out. She gives me an ice water with a lid and says, "You might want this for the road." I thought, my goodness. All right, so that's at the Waffle House. I don't know about that, Dave's here, that we're going to compare Denny's, unless Denny's would like a sponsorship. If Denny's wants a sponsorship, then I've got some kind words for Denny's. Denny's is fine. Nothing wrong with Denny's. I live down the street from a Denny's, and I've been there once. Took my daughter there. But yeah, I like consistency out of restaurants. I've discovered this, that take McDonald's. McDonald's, when it's on its game, and I know McDonald's is garbage. I know it's not good for you. I understand all of that. And I try not to go there. But if McDonald's is on its game, then, like, if I get a crappy McDonald's, then it sucks because you know it's bad for you and it sucks. And why subject yourself to that? But if the McDonald's tastes great, like it should, and it's made fine, then you experienced McDonald's. I gotta say, and because McDonald's, maybe forever, but certainly in my memory of recent years, has been so wildly inconsistent. Like, I go there and it's practically just cold, stale, whatever, but then they hit it the next time, and I just can't have that. Whereas there's a Steak and Shake down the street, and I had never, I don't think, ever been to a Steak and Shake. And I go to this Steak and Shake. Again, I need to rule this out of my life too, especially after what I heard this past weekend. But man, I feel like I could run through a brick wall, so I just never think anything affects me. But as I was hearing the ills of processed food and so forth. Anyway, the Steak and Shake, once a month at the Steak and Shake, is it that bad? So down at the Steak and Shake, I gotta say, it's not the greatest in the world, but it's consistent. It is exactly the same every time. Every time I've been there, it's exactly the same. And that's what I want out of a restaurant, that I don't have to guess what the food's going to taste like. Five Guys. Yeah, the Waffle House. Maybe if I had somebody to join me, maybe that would be good. Huh? I'm not going to sit down at the Waffle House by myself. Okay. So oh man, why am I talking about food? We're doing a college football show here. There's no college football going on, is there? One more thing about food. I love, I'm a big Five Guys fan. The fries, though, are really not that good. This is kind of tough to do. They don't taste good, but the texture is perfect. They make a perfect fry when it comes to the texture of the fry, but they taste kind of burnt. They're too potatoey or something. But as long as you got a mound of ketchup, then the Five Guys fries are great. Plus, they give you a ton of fries. Like their little container, they just like overflow that thing 50 times. So I'm good about Five Guys. Todd says, now, when I started to read this, I thought Todd had cleaned up his act here. He no longer did fast food, but that's because it's too expensive. Well, I get what you mean there. I got it. You go to McDonald's and it's like 15 or 16 bucks, especially. And yeah, that's not something I should be eating. And I've been doing rather well. Would this be the first day of spring ball? I'm assuming in Oxford. It's not the first day of spring ball everywhere. Which reminds me, we did a record earlier today with Pat Murphy from Bucknuts. So you're going to see those segments on the Ohio State channel. We run through the entire Ohio State offense and also the deal with the spring game. There's a lot of confusion about the Ohio State spring game, whether they're having one or not. You see in a lot of articles about all these schools that are canceling spring games that Ohio State is not having a spring game. They are still having a spring, they're calling it a showcase. So you get to see guys run around and catch passes and punt. Whatever they're going to do, they're going to do it. We talked about Dion's idea the other day. Okay, I'm going to get locked in on football here. That and somebody else was making fun of me for getting up at 7 a.m. like it was no great feat, and I get that, but who was that? How do I like my eggs? I like them a number of ways. I only know how to make those scrambled. That's all. And I actually had bacon and eggs today. That put me in a good mood. Marky Mark. All right, Gabe, thank you for that. Yes, Buc-ee's. I had my first adventure at Buc-ee's recently. So yeah, I was just blown away by this place. I never imagined. I had no idea. I thought it was probably a slightly bigger than regular gas station. And then maybe they had some cool t-shirts and mugs. That's what I was anticipating when I tried Buc-ee's. My son came down and then he had a buddy close by. So he spent the night with us the final night before they flew back, and they wanted to go to a Buc-ee's. I said, well, there's one right around the corner. I've never been there. I've passed it 1,000 times, and I just don't think to go in there. And I was blown away. And I got some free fudge and barbecue. Now, I haven't been back. That's not because I wasn't impressed. Just something has to force me to go down there. Like my habits have to change in life. Like it's out of my mind now that it even exists, that it's even there. It's so far off the street. Like I pass it all the time, but it's like, it's like an industrial complex back there. I don't even see it. All right, we're going to look at some football here. Karen says 7 a.m. is a comfortable time, or late if you're me who gets up at 3:30. 7 a.m. is a comfortable time. Yeah, it's. I love to stay up late. I'm a late night guy, and I mean 2, 3. But I know that that's not the best way to live. But that's how late I want to stay up. And then I'm not going to sleep until 11 o'clock in the morning, even if I have zero to do. I'm always going to be up by 9. So that's how that plays out. So maybe we'll have a Syracuse, Colorado game. Maybe they can put this together. Hey, we saw this in COVID that year we saw games get scheduled in 4 days. So certainly these two guys can get together and fly their teams cross country and scrimmage on a Saturday. I know that Colorado's spring game is on ESPN2 in roughly a month. Leanne's letting us know that Syracuse and Colorado. Fran Brown did a heck of a job his first season, 10-3. But was that Kyle McCord or was that Fran Brown? We will soon find out. Tukey G has made a decision. His first decision is that we are going to rename the show. I don't think that was part of the deal, Tukey G. I like the name of the show. I'm really creative on the naming of the shows, as you can see. The College Football Show. So it's the Tukey G Late Night. Is this a sponsorship? Do we get sponsorship money for this, Tukey G? We can give you our rate card, let you know. Maybe that's an idea. That's an idea. We get a personal sponsorship out of these each and every week. That's the way I should go. The Tukey G Late Night College Football call-in show at The Voice of College Football should be the name of the late night shows. By the time I say that, the show would be over, but totally unbiased opinion. Of course, April 11th at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Let me check my calendar. April 11th. That sounds like the spring games are on the 5th, the 12th, the 19th. So that's a Friday. Probably, unless I can find something better to do on a Friday. I don't know. With my life, Tukey G, you're safe. You're safe. So we will pencil it in for Friday night, the 11th. Yes, we could start doing a fast food. Yeah, we would have to stick to low-end food, because if we get too high up the chain of qualities of food, then I love high-end food. I just can't describe it. I can't really help you out. There's a place that I've found that, well, I didn't find it. My best friend found it. We've gone there probably 5 times. The best steak I have ever had in my life, I believe. And I have no idea what this place is, what the name of it is. I've been there 5 times and I don't know the name. Oh man, this steak is remarkable. I get the ribeye steak. It's phenomenal. It's huge too. It's like that big. It is pretty pricey, but it's high-end food like barbecue. No, I am talking about yeah, that's a really good steak. The best chain steak, I believe, is I can't remember the name of the place. Texas Roadhouse. That's my favorite chain restaurant steak. On to some college football. Why don't we? So we're going to play 2 little games here. And the first one deals with this format that ESPN spit out that I'm going to steal. Gregory, the early bird menu at the Texas Roadhouse. What, do you save money? Is that the deal? All right. Anyway, we remind everyone that this is the College Football Show. Our On the Move shows Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Folks, it's a good time. We should see everybody over on the recruiting channel every Tuesday at 1 Eastern. we have been simulcasting not just that show, but a lot of shows on Twitter and also on Facebook. And I see where, probably like this right now, my little counter says that 91 people are watching. I'm guessing like 15 people are watching on YouTube. And everybody else has scrolled by us on their phone, on probably not on Facebook. Probably most of these are on, although the Facebook views are surprisingly high. So we're going to start hitting the old Facebook, and we're going to hit up all the 70-year-olds on Facebook with our shows, because we just randomly throw them over there, and we're going to more consistently do it now, because I noticed that we may only get 500 to 1,000 views here, and then I see there's like 800 people watched it on Facebook. So why not? Except that doesn't make us any money. So there, Gregory saying 24 people watching us here on YouTube, and I've got a counter at 86. I have apparently not entertained anyone for the last minute, because it's dropped from 92 to 85. So I don't know if that's because they want to hear more about food and we're turning to college football, or we weren't talking about college football. 11 likes. So please like the video. So this is the YouTube game, folks. To be brutally honest about it, YouTube is kind of, I was going to use a pretty harsh term. YouTube has kind of suppressed the college football content creators in favor of news and whatever else they like to push, and also the mega giant college football content creators. Not the content creators, they're basically companies, CBS Sports and 247 and all of them. So they really hurt our views as of late. And I know that this is the worst time of year too, so that's part of it, but I'm talking about our views now versus previous years at the same time. So we need all of you to help us, and of course I'm sure you're going to do that. All right, so thanks for the update there, Gregory. And I have left the call-in line here, so I am certainly willing to talk to anyone. So I will do that one more time, and then we're going to dive into this article. I don't know if this really means anything, but what was kind of funny talking about YouTube and getting views is that I think this was a college football playoff night, and I had everything that I had to say out, done after about 90 minutes or 2 hours. I had taken all the calls. I was tapped out. And then somebody started talking about music in the chat. We ended up talking music and so forth for 2 hours on a college football playoff night, and nobody left the chat. So I don't know what that says. It either says college football analysis sucks, or it says you guys don't care and we're just hanging out regardless. We do have a caller. Ask and ye shall receive. Chris, how you doing today? Chris, are you with us? I guess not. Chris, can you hear me? Going once, going twice. Chris. Okay. Try back, Chris. We appreciate the effort. All right, one more time on the college football brackets. So ESPN put this together courtesy Chris Lowe. Chris Lowe, he worked in Mississippi, if I do recall. He was at the Clarion Ledger in Jackson. if it's the same Chris Lowe. I believe it is. So I somewhat know him. All right, so he put this together. This is fun stuff. Let's give it a look. So he's got a whole Midwest regional semifinals and so forth and so on. And who would play in the first round? Whoa, whoa, whoa. I think we missed the first round. Let me check on our caller again. Chris is trying again, and I know that everyone wants to hear from Chris. Chris, how you doing? Chris, can you hear me? I've got your audio up. I cannot hear you. I assume nobody can hear Chris, just like me. Edward says, your show is more fun, Mark. Keep going. More fun than what? Than other people's shows? Hopefully. Troy, don't tell us that. Long form content is getting phased out by YouTube. So many creators are complaining about it. They want shorts and lots of them. Yes, they do. I should be producing shorts. Yes, we can't hear them. Thank you, Timothy, for letting us know. Chris, if you can hear me, please bow out and try one more time. So we got a suggestion on Rumble, which reminds me, and after about 12 false starts, I will get to this article here, is that sometime here in the next couple of weeks, we're going to jump on here and we're going to talk to all of you about Patreon and YouTube memberships and what you would like to see. I had the fortune there for a second of seeing 3 Chris's at the same time down below. I don't know that I could handle that. So Chris, you're here and you're there, and I guess you dropped out on that one. Hello, Chris, can you hear me? Okay. All right. So we don't really care about the particulars, except for I wanted to go back to the original article with the start of the tournament. This is like into the Sweet 16s. That's not what I want. How do I do that? Chris keeps trying. Chris! Just not your day, Chris. You can keep trying if you like. Every time I hear you pop on, I will give it a shot. Shoot, I want to go to... Hang on. We're down to the Sweet 16. Where's the original article? You would think that they would want to like have you read the earlier article. Maybe this is why ESPN's going under. They can't think through simple things like this. You have a series of articles. This is like 101. If you have a series of articles and somebody's reading like the second or third one, you make it accessible to read the original one. You want them to start from the beginning and read all of them. I have no... This is incredible. So, ESPN, you have screwed up before, you've screwed up again. We are going to go to the college football news. That's what we're going to do. And we are going to check out their... So they've got a 1 through 136, and these are their elaborate rankings, 1 through 136. Timothy, so true, so true. And we don't care about the bottom team, so we will skip through them. But we will look to see who would make a college football field according to College Football News. Oh boy, is this going to get complicated too? Here we go. Let's get to... So we're looking for team number 64. Oh, one of my best friends in the world is calling me right now. That's okay. You are more important, College Football Nation. So we have Let's advertise a little bit while we're here. On the Move, Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to blast that through everybody's brains because it's a heck of a show. All right. So think about this. According to College Football News, I don't know that we can trust them. And they do a fine job. Mr. Peter Fytak, I believe is his name. And if I butchered it, I apologize because he's been on here. Really nice guy. So they do great work. If you just want nuts and bolts, no bull, no flowery crap, no editorials. You just want information thrown at you, rankings, schedule analysis, that kind of stuff, like the kind of stuff that I like. You just go to College Football News. They're great. And I would have to admit, I am doing less of that stuff at this point because it's just not, unfortunately, paying off. And Chris, we're going to try again. Chris, how you doing? No. Thanks for being here, Chris. I appreciate the tries, but we cannot hear you. Yes, we've got our volume fully cranked. I am going to double and triple check with the chat. Chris, we have a chat that is just waiting to hear from you. Unfortunately, it's not happening today. All right, back to this. If College Football News is accurate in its rankings of teams, now let's understand they are clearly not ranking teams based on record from last year or anticipated record this year. They are simply basically saying all the Power 5 teams are better than all the Group of 5 teams, except for a Boise State, a Tulane, et cetera, et cetera. I bet if we went through this, we're only going to see about 4 to 6 Group of 5 teams above any Power 5 teams. So they're basically ranking who they truly believe are the best teams. It's not one of these gift rankings like Liberty's 12-1, so we're going to rank them in the top 25, even though they're nowhere close to the 25th best team in the country. I hate that. Chris won't give up. Chris. I was going to say Chris is unstoppable, but he's obviously not unstoppable because he can't get through. Chris, we appreciate the effort. All right, number 64 is Mississippi State. So if we played a 64-team college football playoff, and I understand actually there's how many teams in the men's tournament now? We're up to 72? That's 74. That's 64 plus 8. Yeah, 72. Yikes. Can you imagine that? The first 4 would start with Oregon State, the fine Oregon State Beavers coming off their 5-7 season against largely a Group of 5 schedule. Brutal. So they would play a first 4 games. So would UCF with now Scott Frost as head coach. Memphis. Now Memphis can play some football at the Group of 5 level. They're coming off 11-2. They beat West Virginia in a bowl game. Memphis, I think we're a little low on Memphis there. Their final rank last season, according to College Football News. And that's another thing I did not do this past. Man, I am slumping. We did not do a final 1 through 135 ranking, did we? But that looks about right for Memphis at 47 last year. They must be losing quite a bit. I've not looked into it. Stanford at 69. Finished 83 last year. Purdue finished at 90. They're going to jump to 68. So they're in the first 4. Virginia's in the first 4. Let's get Virginia to a bowl game. I cannot explain this in any such way, but there are about 5 or 6, 7 schools across the country that I secretly root for. Yeah, there are some teams that I root for secretly. Yeah, Ohio State would be one of them. Just kidding. So I root for some reason, just about everyone in the Big Ten Western Division. What used to be the Big Ten Western Division, I just have a soft spot in my heart for Iowa, Wisconsin, Purdue, Minnesota, especially Minnesota, PJ Fleck, Northwestern, not Nebraska, because they're not a real, true Big Ten Western Division team. Even though I guess technically I'm not making sense because they were in the original Big Ten West, but you know that they're a new member to the Big Ten, so I don't put Nebraska in that bucket. Sorry, Husker fans, I'm not rooting for Nebraska. But the other 6 team, Illinois, if there is a Big Ten Western Division team playing again, traditional, old school, if we consider 2014 to be old school for 10 years, Big Ten Eastern Division team, I'm always rooting for the West. So I've got a soft spot for Big Ten Western Division teams. I also have a inexplicable soft spot for anybody want to guess who else I root for? Donald is guessing that I root for Miami of Ohio. All right, so this is although that most of the MAC does preside in Ohio, not Nebraska. I was saying, Timothy, not Nebraska. They're not a long-standing member of the Big Ten. Do not root for Nebraska. Got nothing against Nebraska. Hawaii, no. Hint, they are on the screen. And it's not Cal. I don't know why I've got a soft spot for Virginia. I like Virginia. I always root for Virginia to win. I cannot explain this other than they suck. And so I feel bad for them. I think that's part of it. I like that. I've got a buddy from ESPN. Dan White, if you're out there, Dan White, this guy is the biggest Virginia fan. Well, he might be the only Virginia fan that I know personally, although when we took roll call, and Karen's not going to like that because Karen is a Virginia Tech fan. So I apologize. I didn't make that connection, but it's just the way it is that this guy's a crazy Virginia fan. It's hilarious. Like, I'm talking about Virginia tennis, Virginia swimming, Virginia women's basketball, Virginia base, the whole gamut. But of course, football first and basketball. Of course, they just won a national championship. And I think Tony Bennett left a couple years ago. But they won a national championship right around the time that I stopped watching any basketball. But I don't know. I can't explain it except for they're this downtrodden program that I would just like to see succeed at some point. Has nothing to do with their uniforms. And I like my guy Dan from ESPN. We started the same week at ESPN. And thank you, FAFO, Buck, FAFO, Buck. If this is a good show, then I can do one every day. I can ramble every day. So, yeah, I've got a soft spot for the 6 previous Big Ten Western Division teams outside of Nebraska. I root for them. I root for Virginia. I shouldn't say this because I'm supposed to be Mr. Neutral. And I root for, there's one other team, and they're on the West Coast. There's another team that I root for, and they are on the West Coast. But Karen, Tech has not always sucked. You have had some outstanding seasons, and of course, you're missing Frank Beamer. You've never been the same since he left. Anybody? One more guess on, I think that's it. Nobody in the Big 12 do I root for. I could care less who wins any Big 12 game. I'm not saying I don't like watching Big 12 football. I watch it. I enjoy it, but I don't care. I don't care at all. I have a certain level of respect for Kansas State because of just what they have built under Bill Snyder and maintained now with Chris Kleiman. I find that very admirable. So I do respect Kansas State a lot, but I don't really care. And yeah, the rest of the Big 12 don't care. The SEC, I don't care who wins an SEC game. I really don't. I cannot think, except for when Saban was rolling and, you know, just like anybody else in America, just wanted to see them lose. But besides that, now that Kalen DeBoer's there and they went 9-4, I don't care. And yeah, I've no rooting interest in the SEC. And especially if Leanne's not watching, we'll say if Leanne's watching, I didn't mean any of that. And of course, I'm rooting for Ole Miss. But besides that, yeah, don't care. Except I would love to see, I like to see the underdogs. I would like to see Arkansas rise up. I do have okay, I'm going to throw one more in there. Arkansas. I kind of like Arkansas. Always have kind of liked Arkansas. And actually, when I went to Mississippi to cover Alabama, Mississippi State, and Ole Miss, I did favor Ole Miss. I don't know why. Yeah, I always thought it was kind of cool that they're the one school in America that doesn't go by the name of the school. You ever notice that? Ole Miss. How did that start? Where'd that start? They're Mississippi. Their name is Mississippi. They are the University of Mississippi, but they go by Ole Miss. Nobody else does that. I always thought that was kind of interesting. I always like their colors. They've got a great color scheme. And when I would go to the news conferences, Ole Miss always had the best food. They always had the best food at the games and the press conferences. So I will say that about the Rebels. But now that they're good, maybe they've gotten too good. I liked the struggling Ole Miss teams under Joe Lee Dunn, Tommy Tuberville. Yeah. Coming off probation. So yeah, basically Arkansas and like a team like Vandy. I could care less about Vandy, but Vandy, do we have Vandy Dandy in here? They're usually in here. You got to root for Vandy. So I root for underdogs, basically. I like to see upsets. Okay, so there's one other team. They're on the West Coast, and Donald guessed Washington, no. Tukey, Oregon State, no. Troy, USC, no. Ole Miss sounds like a Southern way of saying old lady. Yeah, I would have thought of that too. Ole Miss. I just don't know where that. I don't know where that comes from. I don't get it. Not Stanford. Although Stanford, I did like when Harbaugh got Stanford to a certain place where they were really good. Then David Shaw, and I kind of like when Stanford's good. But no, not Stanford. Can't be Stanford. And really, at one point in my life, anybody that had any wins against Ohio State, I just automatically hated, which after a couple decades, you then determine you hate everyone, which I generally do. Me at the age of 25, sitting here, would say I hate everyone. I hate all teams. Virginia Tech would be a better choice. Yeah, they would. If you're just looking to win, they're better. All right. So everybody's danced around USC, Stanford, Oregon State, Washington, UCLA. I've always liked UCLA. Love the uniforms. They play in the Rose Bowl. Yeah, UCLA. And I've always been perplexed as to why they were not better in football, especially years ago. Not so much now, even though California is still an excellent top 4 recruited state, but they used to be pushing number 1. And I would think, why isn't UCLA better? Why they should be winning 10 games every year. So yeah, I'm intrigued by UCLA. Knew somebody would go there. That has nothing to do with any women at UCLA. Nothing to do with that. It's just kind of a I don't even want to say uniforms because I don't root for uniforms. The teams that I just mentioned do not have generally good looking uniforms. Iowa does not have a good looking uniform, or Purdue. But yeah, it's just it's one of those things you can't explain. Can't explain that, right? You just like who you like. That's how it works. That's like music. You just like what you like, right? You don't sit there and analyze it and try to determine this is what I should like. The only time I did that in my life is when the Cleveland Browns went away in 1995. And then when they came back in 1999, I did not have an NFL team because I never liked the Browns. And I was a huge NFL fan. Huge NFL fan. Now I was a Dallas Cowboys fan, but once they fired Tom Landry, then I gave up on the Cowboys. And I did not have an NFL team. I just watched the NFL. But when the Browns came back, that was the only time in my life I determined, okay, I should be a Browns fan because I'm a Buckeyes fan, Cavs, Indians to the hilt. So I thought I should be a Browns fan. Therefore, I am a Browns fan. But it didn't work. Didn't work. My heart never took to it. So I never cared about the Browns. After about a half of a season trying to fool myself into being a Browns fan, I thought, I don't care. All right. Christopher's trying again. Christopher, how are you?
Good.
Oh, we got you.
Oh, I know. Aren't you lucky?
You don't know how many thousands of people are ecstatic right now. There are houses, homes exploding out there in jubilation that
You got to
you've
be careful,
connected.
Mark. I have a sarcasm detector on my. I'm reading the sarcasm detector in your voice.
I'm not being sarcastic. I've been picking up your call time after time after time after time, hoping for the best.
No, it wasn't you. It's like I said, my phone, or it's my data or whatever. I'm not good at. And then somebody suggested I restart it, so that's what I did, and I guess that.
There you go. Well, what's on your mind?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I was going to ask you a question, but like I said, I don't want to take up your time because you've already tried to put me on, and I don't want to like waste your time. But what are your thoughts, I guess, about the tournament that's happened? I know it's not basketball season, but in terms of what you talk about, but do you have a pick, or are you just going to go talk like everybody else does? Because I hate it when people do that, but I guess that's you're going to pick Duke or Kentucky, maybe.
I saw something one time, Chris, where somebody showed that if you pick chalk You don't make any determinations on your own. You just go chalk through the entire tournament. That
You know,
over the course of time, you will win anything because it went not in a particular year. Like if you had a pool where you played for 10 years, you would have the best record just playing chalk.
well, at any rate, that wasn't why I necessarily was, because like one team they ever, I mean, I can't believe they're not even talking about it. Well, maybe they are certain people, but Gonzaga, they said that they've won 8 straight sweet, or they've been in the Sweet 16 8 straight. I mean, at some point, when are we
Yeah.
going to start maybe giving them a few credit for being? I mean, maybe 16 isn't the ultimate, but
Who is not giving them credit?
well, everybody, I guess they to get there they have to beat Houston, but is that so impossible? I mean, it's surprising to me, I guess, a little bit that people don't seem to give them any, what do you call it, credit, I guess.
This is all you, Chris, because I have no idea. I don't watch basketball. I don't even know who's in the tournament. I could probably guess who's in the tournament. So if you would like to talk about basketball, that's fine. Something tells me that Chris is now disconnected. Chris, are you with us? All right. Chris is going to go restart his phone again. All right, here we go. We've got we would have this field. So again, my point was going to be that if you want a 64 team college football field, Mississippi State, who went 2-10, according to College Football News, would make the field. And they are expected to be significantly better this year, going up 25 spots, according to CFN. And so Mississippi State would play. Okay, we're not going to do this 64 times. Okay, no, we're not, because they don't have the entire list. So anyway, salt that away. Mississippi State at 64. Tulane, probably only one of 3 or 4 group of 5 teams. They're at 63, down from 45 last year. North Carolina at 62. Bill Belichick and company. Oklahoma State. Now we know how bad they were last year at 3-9. They would be at number 61. Duke at 60. West Virginia 59 fired its coach, Neil Brown. Rich Rod is back. BC and Bill O'Brien at 58. South Florida at 57. So we've got a South Florida team. I don't know if I agree with this out of the American Conference. Who's better? South Florida is better than BC, West Virginia, and Duke? Really? Huh? Okay, I would wager those games in the Power Fives direction. Chris, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what are you talking basketball or football?
No, I am not talking basketball.
Oh,
I,
okay.
I talk
I guess
nothing but football.
if you let me talk about it, and if you don't want to talk about it, I guess that's okay, Mark. But honestly, I don't know, and this is gonna probably upset you a little bit, and I'm not. That's not my intention. So if it does, just kind
Oh,
of.
I'm impossible. It is impossible to upset me.
Well, okay. This is what I'm thinking, and whether people like it or not, they can throw in their whatever they want, a proverbial 2 cents, whatever, to tell me what they think of it. I think the solution is so simple that to have you say like a tournament of what? Are you actually considering 64 teams? I mean, I guess if
Not
you want to,
not seriously.
isn't
This is just for fun.
that was what Mike Leach wanted to do? Not that there's anything wrong with him, but I don't tend to think that that's going to make things much better to follow that sort of
No,
thing. I mean, that was his idea, wasn't it?
that would be a disaster. It was. I think he said 64.
All right. Now, just tell me what you think of this, Mark. And before, I don't know if I have to go too much in detail to really explain it, but because I think Ohio State, I think, was robbed of a win against Oregon, in my opinion. I know you don't share that opinion.
You love that topic.
No, I
That's your
really don't.
new 1984 BYU topic.
Well, I have obsessive compulsive disorder, but anyway, that's probably the reason. But I thought Ohio State deserved. They had a timeout, Mark. I don't know what else you can do. I mean, and they didn't use it, and somebody was signaling timeout, and there was still time on the clock, and the player was down. I don't know at what point is that not a rob. But anyway, that's maybe not. In my opinion, they were robbed of an opportunity to win. I mean, they had to make the field goal, obviously, which that's not necessarily a guarantee. But anyway, I think they were taken out of a chance to win a game that they probably could have won and maybe should have won. And so that changes the whole scenario, doesn't it? Then if they
They
beat,
still won the national championship.
well,
It didn't
you're not
matter.
letting you're not letting me. You're not. Are you there? You're not letting
Okay.
me.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
Well, okay. It boils down to one thing. It's two losses should eliminate a team. Just in. So I guess you're gonna say, well, that eliminates. It doesn't really eliminate Ohio State though, because, like I said, if they had given the opportunity, which I think that they earned, to beat Oregon, then the team that would have been eliminated in the Rose Bowl would have been Oregon, right? Or at least could have been. I don't know. It might have changed it to where Oregon didn't go. I don't know. But regardless, I think two losses should take a team out. And if it doesn't, then there's a problem. And so I see an issue, I guess, with the idea of.
May I interrupt real quick, Chris? I do believe that so we would have had a 4-way tie for first place in the Big Ten: Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, and Indiana. And since Ohio State defeated the other three in this scenario, they would have definitely been in the Big Ten championship game. Oregon did not play Penn State or Indiana. None of those three teams played each other, so we would have to go through some wacky tiebreaker. But I believe since Oregon would have lost to the best team, well, so did Penn State, though. So anyway, who knows who would have played in the Big Ten championship game?
Well, that isn't necessarily what I was trying to call you about.
Proceed.
But I mean, that's in the whole. I mean, I understand how that kind of applies, though. I think if you lose in the championship game, I mean, there's still the opportunity, I guess, to advance. So, I mean, maybe I'm wrong to suggest that they shouldn't get the second chance. But anyway, in my idea, which you may not want to use, it's kind of a different idea, because Oregon was credited with a win. Here's what it boils down to, okay, Mark? They're not eliminated by losing to Ohio State in the Rose Bowl, is what it boils down to. And not only that, because it was only one loss, they actually play in what I think is the right way to go would be for the two teams with the best records to advance, which would have been Oregon and Notre Dame. And the other teams, in my opinion, even including Ohio State, didn't quite measure up. Now, I know that isn't necessarily reflective in the results, but if you just hear me out, one of the reasons would be Ohio State didn't prevent Oregon from making a chance to win it. I know they won easily. Don't get me wrong, but
I am going to answer the question by Gregory since Chris cut out again. That would be Jackie Smith, was the tight end who was traded from the Cardinals to the Cowboys midway through 1978, that dropped the ball against the Steelers in the Super Bowl and was quoted on the broadcast from the Cowboys radio network as the sickest man in America. Yeah, Jackie Smith, who has since been inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So. Or was I not supposed to answer that? I don't know. All right, Chris. Okay, Chris has left us. We're going to continue on our march through the top 64 teams in college football. Kansas at 56. So they would play roughly number 11 or 12. No, number 8 or 9. Cincinnati at 55. A former group of 5. Arizona at 54. Oh, my word. Arizona last year was beyond pathetic. So these are the kind of teams that we would have playing in a 64-team college football playoff. Arizona lost to UCF 56-12. That's how bad Arizona was. They lost basically all of their games by about 4 touchdowns. Terrible football team. UCLA at 53. Now, at the end of last year, College Football News had UCLA at 48 and Arizona at 71. Noah Fafita's back at quarterback for Bear Down. Virginia Tech. Karen is at 52. Your beloved Hokies. Vandy Dandy, if you're here with us, Vandy is at 51, of course, coming off a bowl victory. That never happens. Number 35 in the nation. What a year by them. And then we're going to look at the top 50 teams in America with Houston at 50, up from 73. Colorado at 49, down from 32, minus Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. Syracuse at 48, down from 19. No Kyle McCord, of course. TCU at 47. Maryland 46. They were awful last year. They won one Big Ten game. Pitt at 45. Pitt was not a good football team last year, even though they went 7-6. Rutgers at 44, a better team than Pitt last year. That I hope they were ranked higher. No, look at that. Okay, this is, sorry, college football news. Bad ranking. Bad ranking. How can you look at this? How can you look at this Pitt team and their array of horrendous losses and their lack of quality wins? Who did Pitt beat last year that had a pulse? The answer is no one. Horrible. And Pitt finished number 44 in the country, and Rutgers 51? Oh, Lord. I made a comment. Yes, Bootzilla, very well done. Vern Lundquist was the Cowboys announcer. So I have a huge issue with this. Rutgers was a better team last year than Pitt. And they've got Pitt 7 spots higher than Rutgers. No. Pitt beat nobody in the class of a Minnesota, a Washington. Those were 2 of Rutgers' wins. No, forget it. Rutgers almost beat Kansas State in a bowl game. They played that game down to the wire. No. It's terrible ranking. Got Boise State at 43. I wish I would have done my own rankings here now that I see this. But we are going to do program rankings. They're coming up soon, next week. BYU at 42, NC State at 41. Arkansas 40, Washington 39. Those are basically 7 and 6 teams in that range. Kentucky coming off 4 and 8. College Football News sees a huge bounce back from Kentucky from 62 in the country to 38. Baylor at 37. SMU 36, of course, made the college football playoff. Wisconsin at 35. This is where you see the record doesn't really jive with the, and I'm defending that position. Wisconsin finished 59 last year. 35 is the projection from College Football News. They are expecting Wisconsin to jump. Louisville 34, Nebraska 33, Georgia Tech 32, Minnesota at 31. With the final ranking last year, Minnesota at 18 at 8-5. I like it, but that's not quite accurate. Texas Tech at number 30, Kansas State 29. Those are pretty good rankings. Iowa State at 28. And that's, of course, coming into this year. This is a preseason ranking. College football finals ranking for Iowa State last year was 12. Auburn at 27, up from 53. So they like a jump from Auburn. And then, Chris, we will get to you in a second. But, of course, we want to see this top 25, which is time is it? Michigan State at 25. Michigan State at 25, up from 60. Indiana 24, USC 23, Mizzou 22, Oklahoma 21. That's a pretty healthy ranking. Ole Miss at 20, South Carolina, Utah. That's a healthy rise from number 63 to 18. Florida State at 17. I might have a video coming out on this. Tennessee at 15, Florida 14. That's fine. Illinois 13, Texas A&M, Oregon. Let's look at the top 10 with, again, according to College Football News, Miami 10, LSU 9, Texas 8, Penn State 7, 6 is Michigan, Clemson 5. People love Clemson. Notre Dame at 4, Alabama 3. That's high. And Georgia number 1, Ohio State number 2. And we will try Chris one more time. Keep in mind, everyone, Iowa Live's at 5:30 Eastern. Hello, Chris. All right. So, for example, when you look at these rankings, you see Georgia at number 1 and Mississippi State was at 64. That would be a first-round game. That's how that would work. Georgia and Mississippi State, the Battle of the Bulldogs, an SEC game. Ohio State at number 2, and I forget who was at 63. But, like Duke was at number 60, so they would play what, number 5, which is you would have a Duke-Clemson matchup. Of course, they play on a fairly regular basis in the ACC. Well, now they do. They used to play in opposite divisions, so they never saw each other. And now, I hear you, Edward. These rankings, the higher we got, there are some clunkers in there. And I'm not necessarily talking about the rankings going into 2025 because that's a projection. I may not agree with them, but I really can't argue it because it hasn't happened yet. But when you watched the Pitt football team play in 2024 and the Rutgers team play in 2024 and looked at their results against different levels of conference competition, and you've got Pitt, who lost their last 6 games in a row, including to Bowling Green in a bowl game, at number 44, and you've got Rutgers at 51. I just don't see that. All right, rest of the day on the Voice of College Football. Let's see. This is a Tuesday, so you've got me on the Iowa show with Corey Brad at 5:30 Eastern. In just about 5 minutes, we got the Nebraska show at 7 Eastern with Justin Adams and company. Then after that, I got to say, my memory's a bit fuzzy. We got Michigan at 8, and we've got a scad of other shows. I think Indiana's tonight. Check out the local listings here, folks. We post them on the community page every day. And heck, buy my book. You'll be glad you did. It's Disputed National Champions. Our buddy Troy was nice enough to contact me in the last week and say, Mark, it's a great book. Loved it. So thank you for that, Troy. Disputed National Champions. The link is in the description section of the video, or just go on Amazon and look up Disputed National Champions. It's easy to find. It's probably the first thing that will show up. Disputed National Champions, a historical reset of the 1990s, but it is not just a history book. We take all these results from the 1990s and we plug them into the BCS era, the 4-team, the 12-team, and the 14-team college football playoff formats. We'll be back tomorrow. That's Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Right now, just go on over to the Iowa show. We will see you then. 5 minutes, Iowa live. Moose. That's very nice of you. I appreciate that. A lot of Michigan stuff in here concerning not just 1997, but of course they factored in, remember that 9-0-3 Michigan team? That was in 1993. Of course, Washington beat Michigan. No, 1992. 1991, of course, Michigan lost to the Washington team in the Rose Bowl that shared the national championship. So a lot of Michigan references in here. They spoiled Ohio State's season, of course, in 1996. So a lot of Michigan in here besides the 1997 season, of course. So again, Michigan fans, you can pick this up and see a lot of Michigan angles as well throughout the 1990s. Thank you, Moose. I appreciate that so much. Hope you're having a good day, sir. We're on the Iowa channel here in just a minute.